Well, hello and welcome to that favorite hour where you sit back, relax, we bring the issues, have beautiful guests in-house, and we just discuss things in depth. And today we have, obviously, what can't we talk about today? We're looking at the size of government, and we're also looking at the protest from the minority in parliament today. Indeed, Ghana is going through interesting times. Somehow, because of the promise galore that the then opposition made, there is a lot of anticipation from general citizens, the hope that this new government, which has now assumed power, everything should be, ready overnight. Even though in reality, you need to give a government a year or so to see, where their feet is. However, because of the way the politics and the way the communication went, it made it seem that things will be done and everything will be okay as soon as we assume the reins of power. And indeed, it came to pass. Now, the next thing, which has always bugged every political party, is the size of government. The reason why size of government become an issue for us here is because of the perks that they get. There's a big divide between the normal citizen. If you watch Seth Kwame Boateng's Waiting to Die, where in the same country, you have women lying on the floor waiting to give birth, only for their children to die and send home. They don't even have the right, not the right, but they don't even have the means to, take anybody to court to seek justice. And then on the other side, there's someone who, through maybe sheer luck or popularity, wins power and is entitled to so many perks. So we always get very agitated that, hey, hold on, don't hire too many people because then it means there are too many perks. And here we are with a government who now has, 110 ministers in total. 110. Now that is a legion of ministers. They are topping the lead. And so, rightfully, citizens are a bit agitated. People are wondering, is it right? Is it necessary that if you have more ministers, then you're going to perform more? Or if you have a leaner government, you're going to perform more? The percentage by which you increase the ministers by, is that the percentage by which your production is going to fare, so that you come back and say, look, I went up by 20% and therefore the economy is also grown by 20 or by 30%. How are we going to measure the success? Because we are going to pay them. And that's what we're looking at today. And then the strange protest in Parliament, we'll talk about that. When I come back, we'll discuss it. My name is Nana Sakwa the Fourth, Akufo-Addo Masahini, and also your favorite host. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. Ministerial appointments and parliamentary protest. Interesting topic tonight. Sitting directly next to me is Daniel Ochim Abuaji, who's an honorable member of parliament for Bantama. Daniel, you're welcome.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for being on the show. And then my brother Richard Koshiga, honorable member of parliament for Keta. Richard, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Now, to set the conversation rolling, let's just watch this insert, and then we'll come back to studio to start talking.
First of all, the first goal of every president is to look at the enormity of the challenges or problems that he or she inherits, and therefore to draw a program and a strategy for dealing with those challenges. And this president envisages that the very ambitious program of national transformation which he put before the Ghanaian people and which the Ghanaian people have now charged him to implement requires a very strong army to deal with. In battle, the opposition that you face in battle also determines the kind of army that you take to the battlefield. Are you following me? And so he thinks that the kind of program, ambitious program that he has for transforming our country requires more hands than would normally be necessary if he is to be successful in executing those programs. So for him, that is the paramount consideration.
And so you do admit that the numbers are huge?
Oh, of course, to the extent that if you want, this is the highest or the biggest government in our fourth Republican history. I mean, there is no way that you can say that it is not huge. It's, you know, the old saying that there are many ways of killing a cat. There are ways of protecting the public purse, okay? Or even if you want, of dissipating the public purse. One of the ways of dissipating the public purse is to create a facade of a lean government. Maybe you can even appoint 30 people and say, oh, okay, we have a lean government. And then the 30 people come off and they sign 51 million cedis to a citizen. And then 500 million cedis to another project, and it goes down the wind, and so on. You can have a lean government that is wasteful.
Are you suggesting that will happen under the previous government?
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. We all know the Subers, the Saders, the Gdes, and so on. They had, I think, between 82 and 83 ministers. On the other hand, everybody knows the kind of work that the Akufo government did in our country. Akufo had 88. Until now, Akufo would have been the president who goes down in history as having the largest number of ministers or the greatest number of ministers. But the output justified his number of ministers. Today, almost all the national monuments and legacies that we talk about are credited to Akufo. Are you following me? So at the end of the day, everybody understood, okay, so this is why he did what he did. And nobody remembers that Akufo had 88 ministers to the extent that there were deliverables. And so Akufo-Addo also believes that this is the number of ministers who will help him deliver on this very huge, ambitious program that he has for our national transformation. So that at the end of the day, if we succeed in transforming our agriculture, there's a lot to eat, a lot to go around, and everybody is satisfied with our national transformation. I'm not sure that the issue of how many ministers brought this about will any longer be a question. And that is what the Constitution of Ghana envisages when it says that every president shall appoint such number of ministers as may be necessary for the efficient running of state. Because the Constitution recognizes that it is not every program that will require a certain set of ministers, that every program of transformation will require a different set of ministers depending on the ambition of the president in question.
That was Mustafa Hamid, Minister for Communication. But definitely Asiodun Ketia responded. Let's hear Asiodun Ketia's response.
I think they are confused, honestly.
Why?
Because you see, the progressive parties who believe that government has some responsibility in tampering with the free market to ensure that people who otherwise cannot compete effectively would also enjoy some minimum standards of life. This is a policy of all progressives. So that is why there is a need for government to intervene. And because of government intervention, there is the need for a bigger government. So this is my first time of hearing a liberal party clamoring for a bigger government. To do what? When liberals believe that government is an encroachment on their civil liberties, on their economic liberties. Now they are telling us that they need a bigger government, so why they should go ahead and appoint one minister, one constituency, or one minister, one district, so that the ministers will also help the DCs to prosecute the agenda. If the argument is that because of the nature of the weakness of the economy, they need a bigger team, then they should proceed and appoint a minister per district. so that they can continue.
But
am I hearing this from MPP who are saying?
That's being sarcastic. If you say they should appoint
you are
one
going
minister,
by
one
their
district.
recommendation that because the economy is in tatters, so they need a bigger team to do it. It means they don't know what they are talking about.
They say that your government, which just lost the election, created avenues to loot and share, and that is why we are faced with this problem. Which is why the problem is so huge that we need a gargantuan team.
That is why the team must be small and efficient, and act in accordance with the liberals' belief in how nations ought to be governed. So you don't come out and say that because there is, a big hole in the economy, so we need more ministers, we need more money to pay the ministers, so that the management team will end up using all the money that they would need to be doing the interventions. I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time. I guess.
What are you hearing for the first time?
That because the problems in the nation, the problem is big, so we need a bigger team. Yes. That's why I'm saying that they should proceed to appoint a minister per district. After all, that's where they have begun.
Let's talk about
when Bush or Trump or anybody took over, and they said that, oh, there's too much waste, there's too big a government, we want to handle the problems of the economy. What they did was to cut down the number of appointees, give 5 people's work to 1 man, and let that person do the work efficiently. And let us save on even the cost of running that huge government.
The fact that it works in America doesn't mean it will work in Ghana.
But I'm saying that, look, where does the government money go? It goes into payment. Some of the money will go into the payment of ministers to make sure that all these ministers are going to be given police escorts. All of them are going to be given Land Cruisers, saloon cars, and all that. And they will be paid at the end of the month. So if you are saying that you are coming to cut down government expenditure so you can get money to finance your projects, and you are beginning with a large overheads, if you like, for the country, then it means you are confused. You don't know where you are going, honestly.
So that was the argument that went on today. So I don't need to even give you the historical antecedents on this issue. But let me come straight to my friend Daniel Ochim Abuachi. Yeah. Daniel, I mean, 110 ministers. There isn't any justification. Ministries have 3 deputies. I'm sure there's a chief executive in that ministry. Then there's the chief executive probably has a deputy. I mean, aren't there too many people doing the same job, and then you end up diminishing, returning, back to land?
Well, Nana, thank you for the opportunity, and it's good to see you. I've been watching this program almost every day, every time.
Good to see you. Good to have you on.
And Honorable, welcome to us. Well, anyway, so let me say hello to all your viewers, and hello
particularly those in Bantama.
Exactly, those in Bantama. They are watching. I have sent a few tests, and they are watching. And His Excellency and the team, the ministers, just want to say good evening to all of them. Nana, if you look at the logic of what Sidney Ketia is saying, I don't support it.
But that's the sentiment of the people.
What sentiment? They had a few team, and what did they do? What did they do? A lean team, and did what? Has the president done anything illegal?
No.
He hasn't.
No, it's our tax money. We don't care about legality or illegality.
I'm going to go down on this for you. This is a president who said he's in a hurry. This is a president who is promising bold decisions. He's very determined. And let me just drop this in. The equation for success is equal to preparation plus opportunity. This president has prepared himself over the years, as we all know, about 40 years or more, to get this opportunity that has ultimately descended on him. And for him to be successful, There's no need to waste time. He's prepared himself, he's served the country on many capacities, and he's ready to make sure, and he's determined. He one time met a team of freshers, or the new MPs at Alisa, and he laid his plan down that I would like for our period, our time in this country's history to be remembered as the golden age in the development of this country. So what can you expect?
I mean,
Ghana is 60 years old, and I don't mean to interrupt you. Ghana is 60 years old, and where are we? We still have people who go to sleep without food. Go to Bantama constituency. What is happening in the maternity wards? People, 4 children dying every day. 4 children born and put in baby's cot. 4. Cross infections and others. And we call ourselves a nation which is 60 years old. So this president came in prepared with a clear agenda, a clear vision of what he wants to do. Now, what people are not looking at is what ultimately we are going to look at or get as a nation.
You see, what we get now is a president who is so quote unquote in debt, i.e. people who have helped campaign, so many, and now you get the power and you need to pacify everybody. So it's create office and put this one there, put this one there. Okay, I'll put your man there, I'll put your woman there, so that you can keep all your people happy. I mean, as a voter or as a common citizen, that's how I see it. I mean, if there's one minister, fisheries and agriculture is split, fisheries, and then as a deputy, and then agriculture itself as a deputy, and I mean, there's just deputy galore.
No, I don't think so. My constituency, Bantama constituency, if you arrange the numbers in terms of percentage, we're the second best, 89% in the country. Here I sit. Every time we're in power, you ever get it, the minister or a minister. Here I sit. I don't even feel that he wants to satisfy everybody. And I'm happy who I am. All of us cannot be ministers. So if he really wants to please people who actually did a lot of job, please everybody. Former Florida, Bantama constituency, Kwadaso constituency, Shares constituency, all of us who came in knew, haven't received anything, and we're okay. So the point we're making is not trying to please everybody. The point he is making is that he has an agenda, bold decisions have been made, promises have been made, and we need the people to go and get the job done. But I think the way we should measure him.
Do big governments necessarily produce good reports?
How do you measure big?
Well, Achampon had 10 commissioners, and he produced.
Then how do you measure bigness? Are you looking at productivity per person? Or are you looking at just the number of ministers that are in the position? For instance, if at the end of the day, this president is able to, for instance, take 5 people, let's say somebody took 5 people and produced 10. And then His Excellency, now they don't have Akufo-Addo, takes 10, or let's say 15, and produces 90. Add 90 to the GDP, however you look at it. If you look at the productivity per person, you are talking about 5 to 10 is equal to 2 per person. 15 to 90 is equal to what? 6 per person. 3 times. So what I want our friends in the NDC or the people to understand is that they have to look at the relationship between input and output and not just the number. If you look at just on the face value, you're going to say, oh, it's a large government, it's that. But at the end of the day, what we need to focus on is productivity per ministry or minister.
Richard.
What is going to happen to the GDP? So that is how we should measure him.
There may be 110, but this is the golden age who are going to turn the GDP around and, make magic. So maybe they're giving you 200. Why are we complaining?
Well, thank you, Nana, and good evening to your audience.
And to the people of Keta.
To the good people of Keta.
I have a lot of viewers in Keta. So
yeah, absolutely.
So please.
Yeah, 110, unprecedented. First time ever.
That's a lot of job to be fixed.
Yeah. And I think that our constitution obviously has given the president the leeway to appoint as many ministers as he wants. And so obviously when you look at it from the perspective of the Constitution, he's not committed any crime. But again, also, you've got to look at it from a moral perspective. What are the people of Ghana saying? Why did the people of Ghana voted for this current government? He was voted to address problems. And again, also, we also know too well that the people of this country have also complained in the past about the size of governments. Even at the time when the NDC had 74, people even thought it was too large. And now we're having 110. I recall that in the days of President Akufo, when he was in opposition, he complained about the size of the general in his government. And when he came into government and he had to appoint 88 ministers, he came to apologize to Ghanaian public that he did not know that that was how things were. And that if you're a spectator, you would imagine that it's easy to, as it were, pass the ball to somebody and score a goal. But when you find yourself on the field, a very different situation.
Admittedly, I don't think Nanado is on record complaining about size of government.
Nanado, the NPP, not Nanado per se, but the NPP in opposition during the reign of John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, complained, about the number of people that have been appointed here and then, especially they complained about the those at the presidency, But here we are today, Nana Akufo-Addo doing all he can to please those that are perceived to have worked very hard. I say it is nothing short of job for the boys and girls. My good friend and colleague in Parliament obviously wants to make a very cogent argument by saying that input and output is what should be measured. Yes, indeed. But then again, what is mismanagement? Mismanagement obviously refers to where you could do a job with 2 or 3 people to achieve the same results and you decide to use 10 people to do the same job to get the same results. That is mismanagement because you will effectively be doing that job but not efficiently if you use 10 instead of 2. I can give you an example if you don't mind. For instance, if your crew decide to go to cover an assignment, they go with 3 people, a cameraman who obviously also acts as a soundman and light man, and then a reporter. They come, deliver the news at 7 o'clock, and then another media house goes with 10 people, a light man, sound man, etc., etc., and they also deliver the news at 7. They would have spent more money in delivering the same result as you have done with 3 people. And that is mismanagement. Now, we're talking about people who are actually going to feed large on the public purse. We have in this country been complaining about Article 71 office holders, the perks that come with those officers. And here we are having ministers of state who obviously are going to draw on the state coffers. They're going to have a police officer attached to each of the officers. They're going to have so many other things that will be a drain on the limited rare resources that we have as a nation, that we are all very much worried about. The reason for which the Ghanaian people voted for Nana Akufo-Addo and his government.
Richard, but if you look at the manifesto and if you look at the level of promises, you probably can achieve that with quote-unquote a lean government. You need somebody to be checking the one district, one dam, one person to now, redemarcation, creating new regions, creating new factories, railways across the length and breadth of the country. Here we are with the finance dealing with IMF. So probably somebody dealing with the micro side and the macro side. And so maybe, when you are stuck there, you have no choice but, have this legion of ministers running about solving your problems.
Yeah, that can be a very fine, well-rehearsed, response to what is happening currently. But it will not wash with the people. Even within the logical frame of things, it still will not hold water. Because who says in these modern times we need a legion of people to really deliver or perform the various functions that you're talking about? This is not a nation that is being managed for the first time. Others have walked down this road before. Okay, and if others were able to manage the affairs of this nation with sometimes a little more than half the number that we have now, then where then is the justification for saying that, well, we've created Ministry of Railways, we've cut Ministry of Railways, carved it out of another ministry, and etc. It will not hold. I'm saying that what is crucially important is the public purse. What is crucially important is creating the needed jobs that the young people of this country want. And that is what they are interested in. You know, and we are talking about one village, one dam, you know, without even necessarily looking at the numbers and then looking at, you know, the timelines. Okay? So the number of people that you're going to have on board does not equate to the brain work that ought to be done. An individual, a very competent, sharp person who understands the game, you know, who is very dedicated and committed, you know, can sit down and then work out the numbers necessarily without needing all other people. But here we are, even the one village, we don't even know if it's going to work, because in the dry season, what kind of dam are we talking about? I asked this on the floor of the house. What kind of dam? What is the definition of a dam? It's different from a dugout. So that if we are talking about dams, during the dry seasons in the north, will they survive? So, I mean, there are so many questions to be asked that Nana would need a legion of ministers and deputy ministers to resolve these problems. Apart from that, apart from the many ministers they have, you are aware that they've also contracted some consultants, the McKinsey group, you know, to really help macro-manage our economy. I mean, meanwhile, this is a government that claims we have the men. We are not looking at men in quantity, we are looking at quality. We are not necessarily looking at, you know, a number of people, but we are looking at people who can actually give us results. That is what it is. And so, Nana, honestly, it is for the Ghanaian out there to judge. Let the ordinary people judge and ask themselves if indeed this is what they voted for. This is what they want. And it is in that vein and that I would imagine that it is time that as a nation we must come with a legislation, you know, to give a cap on the number of people that a president, you know, when he assumes office, could appoint as ministers and deputy ministers. Unfortunately, this constitution that we have, you know, gives too much power for a good president to need and too much power for a bad president to have. And so if the person is a bad president, then he can decide, look, I'll even appoint 1,000 ministers of state who will draw on the public purse, and who are people who belong to Article 71 office holders. Can you imagine?
Let me bring Daniel in here. Daniel, see, one of the, you know, most of the things that in times past, political elites have shown us that the word moderation and the culture of moderation is either not in their dictionary or in their blood. Moderation, no. We have always lived above our means, our cars, our houses, our perks. I mean, in Ghana, I mean, we are ranked, you know, very good in the world in terms of perks. Here we are the taxpayers. At the end of the month, you know, they'll take money from my wages to go and fund this lifestyle. So when you are giving me 110 people who are going to live this lifestyle, I get worried. And everybody gets worried. Hold on. And everybody, you know, 110 V8s, you know, 110 new cars, we are all concerned.
Yeah. But the question is for what? If I use your tax money, and I give you proportionally more.
Well, you don't, because women are dying in hospitals.
Say that. That is what happened to them. That's what my honorable colleague was saying.
No, you see,
he said we are coming to do the same.
At this rate, it becomes very difficult to split it, because, like you're saying, Ghana is 60 years old, and not one person has ruled for 60 years. It is a combination of everything that's brought this.
From 1992, how many years have ruled versus them? And what my honorable colleague said, I just want him to get it clear. We are not trying to do the same like they did. We have a different agenda. Yes, we have the men. He was telling us that we can use modern technology to do and do more, get more efficient results in those states. So he's talking about even the one dam, one village, we cannot even determine how it's going to happen. We are not like them. We know what it takes, we know where we want to go and how to get there. How do I say this? You went and built a factory in Comenda, and what happened? No consideration for raw material. Today, what is happening? Nothing. We are not like that. He's talking about, we don't even know the type of one dam, one district, one dam, or one village, one dam in the northern region. What kind of dam is going to be? No, get this straight. I remember when we were in the University of Ghana, Lagos, in the 90s. There was a course that, I don't know if it's still there, that is called Appropriate Technology for Rural Development. You don't expect that if you have a small village, we're going to, that needs a small, what do you call it, dam. We're going to build huge or same dam for everybody. We will not do that. We make sure that we take steps that is going to give us the best of everything. Now we saw the clip on Student Katia. He saw that MPP is confused. Now do you know who's confused? Some of our NDC friends are very, very confused. Now he's sitting here talking about technology. You read the budget, go to page 43 and see the expenses. You see a reduction between 2016 budget. You see a reduction of about 500 million in the capital expenditure because of what we are trying to do to save money. And we are saying that a reduction in capital expenditure is equal to reduction in public services or capital physical development. Now you're coming to tell me that you forgot to put equation. The fact that there's going to be competencies, the fact that we are going to use modern technology to be able to do that, even though we may end up spending less, but we can get same results or more. So what they are doing, and what they've been doing all this time in Parliament, is consistently inconsistent. For instance, some of them mislead the Ghanaian people by saying that because the government is reducing taxes, revenue is going to decrease. Use basic elasticity of demand, where you can reduce the price of a commodity and quantity increases more than proportionately. If you multiply the two, you see that revenue, though price has gone down, revenue has increased. So these kind of simple logic and dynamics, sometimes some of our friends, as you say, in the NDC, are consistently inconsistent. When it suits them, they say reduction in expenditure will lead to reduction in public services or reduction in capital, infrastructure. When it doesn't, now he's telling us we are spending too much money or we are employing more people without taking consideration of what is going to happen. And I'm telling you, I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, I employ people. Sometimes we take people that come to us. When they come and we have a discussion, we like them. Sometimes, because we are a small business, what happens to you is that you know that I like this man, but I cannot actually afford the person's salary, given the experience, given where they are coming from. However, if I can structure the salary in such a way that I can make part of it, right, to be directly proportional to output, there's no problem. At the end of the day, he gives you the numbers. So what is going to happen is that I'll pay you more if you can deliver. So what we are doing right now, and I can tell you, some of our friends in NDC have become, I don't know where they get it from. All they see is impossibility. Let it be. This president has been consistent. He knows what he's about. When he was campaigning, everything he said, he brought it to the House, State of a Nation address, all of them are in there. He's always going over his policies and telling everybody, and he's been consistent. The budget actually displayed that he's about to implement most of the major policies. And he didn't end there. He has appointed Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation. One of the biggest challenges that we have in this country is that when you don't monitor people, sometimes they don't do their job.
Let me take a quick...
So this man is ready to deliver.
I'll take a quick
His
break,
Excellence.
and then I will come back. And when we come back to you, I want to find out about the protest on the minority side in Parliament today. And I beg your pardon, I said Mustafa was Minister of Communication. No, Minister of Information, yes, who has 3 deputies. 3 deputies. We're coming back.
In February,
looking at ministerial appointments and government size, and then we'll touch on protest in Parliament. But let me go straight to Richard, just for a rebuttal, if I may say.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. My dear friend talks about he being an entrepreneur and He represents a very large constituency, which I must admit, Bantama is really a really large one. And he talks about the percentage of votes that he polled for Nana Akufo-Addo and all. Probably he's trying to put himself out, you know, for Nana to consider him also, probably adding some 5 more to make it 115. You know, yes, you know, so it's good. It's good to really, who knows, Nana, the president may probably be watching us, and you may have made some good impressions on him, and he may consider it for another portfolio. But you see, seriously, I think that we must admit that we are a nation that is challenged. And a nation that is challenged, obviously, we must find the best way of doing things.
A few months ago, you wouldn't have accepted that, though.
No. That is a fact. That, you know, we always say that we have challenges. I mean, there is no entity in this life that cannot talk of not having challenges. If you don't have challenges, then you are equal to God. You know, so there are challenges. The nation, we all know, had gone through a number of challenges. We're still going through them. The reason for which the Ghanaian people actually said, look, let's give...
Richard, aren't you picking and choosing mandate, yes. when we have challenges and when we have a strong economy? You hear Akufo-Addo say we left a very strong
But
economy.
Of course we did leave a very strong economy. 3.5 months of import cover, first time ever. Okay, when they were leaving office, when President Mills, the late Mills took over, it was 2 weeks import cover. Okay, so today, even the world would admit that yes, though Ghana has challenges in terms of its finances and etc., we are still rated as a strong middle income economy.
So then we can afford 110 ministers?
Of course, we are not saying we cannot afford. As a nation, we can. But then, will that address the challenges, the myriad of challenges that we have? You talked about people who are suffering, could not get the adequate health care that would want them to get, and etc. And so if, for instance, you add in additional 50 ministers and deputy ministers, the amount of money that you're going to spend on them, do you know how many boreholes that could drill for a number of communities that are lacking potable water? Do you know how much of that money, a fraction of that money, could go to address the water problem in Anyaku, in my constituency? You know, so we're saying that we should be prudent in the kinds of things that we do. And as much as Nana, the president, would need to satisfy and those that he thought had done so well to bring him into office, he must also recognize and remember that first and foremost, he is there to serve the interest of the Ghanaian people, to address the many challenges that the Ghanaian people are facing.
What he's doing.
And he must also ask himself, what would the Ghanaian people be saying about this action of mine? Honestly, you don't need that
Richard,
size.
What if they deliver? What if, you know, they turn around and deliver?
We want them to deliver.
Yes.
But we are only cautioning. Some years back, when the NPP was in government and the NDC was in opposition, and there were efforts to actually get resources elsewhere, they were warned that, look, where you're heading to look for money, CNTCI loan and etc., I hope you remember, was a dangerous ground that you were treading on. You know, as usual, they criticize the NDC, oh, they just don't want us any good and all. At the end of the day, we ended up going to a saloon. Monies were spent. People travel abroad. You know, we ended up at a saloon looking for monies that do not exist there. So we are only cautioning. We are advising. We are saying that, look, we are all stakeholders in the affairs of this nation. Okay? So today that you are in the coxswain, you must manage things very well so that we all do not suffer for it. Because if by their actions and inactions, the Ghanaian people become worse off, I'm affected, you are affected as well.
Let me bring Daniel in because of time, because I wanted to push. Daniel, one would ask that, so what happens to, I mean, we have what, 600,000 civil servants which are all in these ministries. So what, are they going to be made redundant, go home, or what's going to happen to them?
it isn't that they're going to go home. That's not the case.
Would they be allowed to work? I mean,
Why not? These are ministers. These are managers of the economy. These are the managers of the country, managing various government ministries. So it doesn't mean that just because we are bringing in more, what we're actually doing is making sure
Ministry of Information has, I think, 4 substantive 3 deputies, and I think previously it was even scrapped.
No, it depends on what the focus is focus is. If it's going to focus each one of them various things to get things done on time.
There won't be a clash between the chief executives and
for instance, no, clash for what? No. It's possible. It's human institution. If there's clash, so be it. But the issue is that look at what His Excellency did about the Ministry of Transport, Road and Transport and all that. In the past, I think they used to be together. Now we have aviation because it's an area we need to focus on. We have railway. It's an area we need to focus on. Now we have transport and, of course, for that matter, roads. When you divide it up like that, you can set clear KPIs, key performance indicators, and begin to call for results. So for me, it is not just about the number of people that we are putting in. For me, it is about what do we get for it. Ultimately, we may more than get our money's worth.
Deputy regional ministers, I mean, what are their roles? I mean, what do they do?
And now they support the minister.
In what? There are
any
DCs everywhere. The regions have so many technical people there. I mean, what's the deputy going to do other than just collect pay and turn up at funerals and Udra festivals and get protocols?
Are you saying that then the vice president's position is unnecessary because the government has so many ministers? That's not what they're trying to say now. I don't think so.
No, but this way there's 10 deputies.
There's risk management. God forbid. What if something
What
happens?
if the DC is there? The regional executives are there.
It's a matter of style. I think this is what we've been doing.
Don't defend it because it's not an NPP thing, so don't defend it. This is now a national thing where I'm just saying, in terms of controlling public purse, what at all do we need deputy regional ministers for?
The challenge is not, again,
Let me see.
the number of people
If you
that
had
are in position.
if you had your way, Richard, would you scrap deputy regional ministers?
Of course, that will need some thinking through.
Why? You have a minister, you have DCs, you have all these technical guys.
But again, as with the
Different.
deputy regional ministers, we've got to look at it from the perspective of some roles that the minister can perform that DCs cannot perform. And therefore, if the regional minister is unavailable, obviously the deputy minister will have to act. So yes, even if we decide that we're not going to have deputy ministers, the work should go on all right. But it could also, along the line, create some vacuum, But then again, that is not to say that what is being done by this government is right.
That will be a subject for that.
In the traditional kingdom, in the traditional area, I believe that if you're not there, work sometimes goes on.
So the traditional we have a much more perfect system than the political arena.
So, but here there are
because here in the traditional, power and authority is separate.
Okay.
I have authority, I have no power.
Okay.
And the power is broken down into pieces and given to the ministers.
Sure.
So that nobody has that absolute control to hire and fire at will.
Okay.
Yeah. So for every sector to work, you will need me and the sector minister. So that for Jassy to work, Jassy will need me. For Bemu to work, Bemu would need me. But I can't go and do Bemu's work. And Bemu can't work unless I give him the authorization. And that brings that power control. But let me quickly move to Richard. Richard, there was a protest in Parliament today where the budget was being discussed, or budget was being approved. Yeah, indeed, it has been approved.
Yeah, it has been
and
approved.
there have been 4 taxes that were approved today. But
customs and excise.
Yes, but you walked out of. Oh, well, you didn't walk out. You protested. The backbenchers, but your front runners were still there.
Yes. So that tells you that it was not a premeditated action. Clearly, there were some happenings in the chamber that members on our side were uncomfortable with. We were being asked to approve this budget. And there were some outstanding issues that members on the minority side thought that they should be allowed to have their say. At least, even if we're not going to have our way, we must have our say, so that it's on record. But it looked like that room was not really made available, for a lot of our members on our side to really speak their mind. And I think that what we saw today, we felt was nothing short of a majoritarian rule, where the majority decides irrespective of what would have actually given clear indication of democracy at work, to prevail. So that was the reason why a lot of members on our side, decided to walk out.
What exactly did you want to say, or what did you want?
Yeah, you see, for instance, when we take the DACF, for instance, by law, this is Assembly Common Fund, Act 252 clearly spells out that, subject to the provision of this Constitution, Parliament shall annually make provision for the allocation of not less than 5% of the total revenues of Ghana to the district assemblies for development. That is law. But then again, what is happening now is that we're seeing a reduction below the 5% threshold that has been stated in the budget, in the Constitution. President is there to prove that, look, some time back, people called for even an upward adjustment that we're moving, and that brought it to 7.5%.
Could it be a reason because in the past we couldn't meet the 5%? It was only on, It was only on paper.
No. We made the 5%. You see, but here's the situation: our friends are taking a number of. They are using tax revenue instead of total revenue. VAT, they are deducting VAT refund, allocation made to GRA, which is 2.8%, VAT refund, tax refund, and a number of those, which will obviously reduce it from 5% to something else, which is a contravention of the law.
Let's bring
now, you see, we have 44 billion as the target, okay? And that 44 billion, we are taking grants out because when we look at what is total revenue, when you go to the District Assembly's Common Fund Act 455, 1993, Section 7 says total revenue means all revenue collected by or accruing to the central government other than foreign loans, grants, non-tax revenue, etc. Okay? So when we take the 1 billion expected grants out of it, it will be like 43 billion.
And then 5%
okay,
of that
5% of that should be about 2.1 billion. And here's the situation. They have earmarked 1.575 billion to the district assemblies. Meanwhile, my brother, we all know that this formula, was put in there so that the districts can do what? Can develop.
Okay, let me get him to respond. Why are you reducing?
We
were struggling as it
I
is.
am not surprised, they protested. They've always said it on the floor. If Honorable, sits here and say that they didn't have enough time to argue, to debate the budget, I disagree with him.
And not necessarily the budget. I think there were issues that we needed to raise.
I disagree with him to the point that even the leader of parliament, extended, the leaders came together and they extended the debate by one more day so that members could actually get opportunity to debate. So they had their way. They had their say.
But why are you reducing the amount?
No. You have to understand that when the minister was presenting his budget, he said there's some realignment of expenses. Is he counting one district, $1 million, which he's going to benefit to be able to probably come back to parliament? They're taking all those out. That is, even if it's taken, it's realigning it. It is going down. Give it to me, or give it to an authority that will help us go down there and produce the people's felt needs.
I don't know if you have time, but who says that $1 million is coming to
so the question is,
it's going to be managed
obviously, it's going to the constituency, you might have a say.
Oh, please.
The authority, you might have a say. So
we are talking about the law.
No. Of course. If we realign these expenses to be able to make sure development happens, what's the problem with it?
No.
Right? So instead of staying there and be part of it, you've been there before, you've been in power before. There were so many things that we never agreed, but because you were majority in those times, you had your way.
Well, you're
right. So whether you support it or not,
so this is a constitutional procedure which has been broken.
Of course.
Will you drag them to court?
You've hit the nail right on the head. We will proceed to court, possibly.
To get proper
We are weighing the options, and possibly.
Do your numbers well.
Possibly we would go to court. Because you see, clearly, we are not bothered about where the realignment. That is their star. But we're saying that which is enshrined in law, you cannot, except there's some amendment to the law. So you cannot just do that. You see, Nana Akufo-Addo, our president, His Excellency, told the Ghanaian people that he would uphold the constitution of Ghana. And he also said he will be fair to all manner of people in the Republic of Ghana.
Richard, to the layman, if I'm supposed to give you, let's say, 200 cedis, and I give you probably 150, and then later on I give you 70, in different ways. I mean, would you still hold water to say, well, you didn't give me the, because if they bring in that 1 million per constituency, does it not sort of the same development? I don't know.
You see, they're talking about bringing 1 million per constituency, $1 million per constituency.
Each year.
Each year. You see, this is an animal that we don't even know which form is actually coming in. Now, 1 million per constituency. When they said that, people thought that, this was separate from the one district, one factory, one dam, one village. But in the budget, the minister made us understood that $1 million will go to support the one district, one factory, one dam, one village, business enterprises, and the others. Yes. Now, so if all these activities that you are going to manage under a different entity, though it is targeted at the constituencies, okay, what form is really coming in?
But you see,
there's no clarity.
All monies allocated seem to have something attached. Nobody's ever giving money that spend as you will. There's always like, it's for education, it's for roads, it's for that, and then you see how you manage it. Or, I mean, I don't know that any constituency ever giving money that, well, that's your money, go.
No, but you see, that brings me to another point I raised earlier when I contributed on the floor. That you see, this one district, one factory thing was a program that Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who then was a minister for local trade and industry, came up with, which was financed by development partners. And it was well spelled out that, look, first year, we're going to actually ensure 47 factories in 30 districts assembly. It gives the formula, the format, how to engage.
So originally it was your plan?
It was already 2014, June 2014.
All good plans were originally
No.
But then you turn around and say it's impossible.
No. You see, theirs doesn't have a structure.
Let me come
theirs doesn't have any structure.
Daniel, you see, sometimes the communication comes as if, listen, you be in your district and all of a sudden a factory will spring up from nowhere and then you get jobs. And so when the communication now turns to say, no, we're going to give you money and you need to, it's the same money from which you need to get your district or your factory from, then we all get a bit confused. So it's the communication that seems to be, very political.
Some of our friends in the industry, regardless of what you do, will twist everything we say. They'll claim ownership. What he is talking about when we debated them on the floor, somebody was talking about SMEs. He's sitting here telling us that they left a very good economy when you took it from about 14% in 2012 GDP growth rate of 14% to 3.6. He will sit here and say, yes,
no, please.
Hold on. In 2012,
14, yes,
40%
GDP growth rate.
So he will say anything.
Listen,
this is the issue. Can he tell me?
You know too well that he knows too well that the figure he has there is not
4 years. Can he? How many factories is he going to build in this area?
Listen,
1 million, 16 million plus cities.
The 40% growth rate that he's talking about was still under an NDC regime.
No. The question
It's 2012. It was still an NDC
and what is
regime.
it?
So what are you really talking
time is
about?
up.
9.1.
No.
And what is happening
And
here?
I'm saying that, listen,
3.6.
let's...
Okay,
So you will say
gentlemen,
anything.
let's round up nicely because Keita and Bantama are watching us. So to the people of Keita and to the people of Bantama, you know, on behalf of your honourable gentlemen, I'm saying, you know, have a lovely day, and we'll hope to have them back, or this discussion should continue. But I give you this number before I go, which is 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. They are Tante's Fashion. They're running a huge discount. Tante's Fashion House. Your password is either Nana or PM Express, and enjoy your discount. Tomorrow we're back to do this all over again. Thank you for watching, and to my lovely gentlemen in studio, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nana.